January 2020, I lost my job. My bank account was in the red. Every time I tried to buy something, my card declined. I was relying on my girlfriend to send me money just to afford food. 7 weeks later, I closed my first email marketing client for $3,500 per month. No followers, no ads, no experience, just me, desperate and willing to figure it out. Today, I am walking you through exactly how I did it, the emotions, the rejection, the breakthrough, step by step. So let me take you back to January 2020. I had just been fired, and I want to be clear about something. I wasn't just in between jobs. I wasn't taking time to figure things out and find myself. I was in shock, complete and total shock. I never thought something like this would happen to me. And the way it happened, I was way too embarrassed to tell anyone, right? My family didn't even know for months. My friends didn't know. I was carrying this thing completely alone. And here's what broke actually looked like day to day, right? I couldn't drive my car, not because it broke down, but because I couldn't afford to renew my road tax and insurance. My car was literally just sitting there, useless, okay? My girlfriend was paying for absolutely everything, food, bills, rent, everything. And I want to say something about her right now because she deserves it. Without her, there is no agency, there is no $5 million, there is no story to tell. She never once doubted me. She paid for everything and made me feel calm enough to take a leap of faith, okay? Shout at her. But even with her support, right, the shame was real, okay? I lived in Manchester at the time, and it's a small world, very small city compared to like where I'm originally from, which is London, right? I'd get anxiety doing something as simple as going to the supermarket to get groceries, right? Because I was terrified of bumping into ex-colleagues and having to explain myself. So I'd avoid it. I time my trips, right? I take different routes, and that's what broke and ashamed actually feels like. Not just numbers in a bank account. It's the anxiety of leaving your house. And here's something I've never really talked about publicly, okay? The grounds on which I was fired, they claimed that it was gross misconduct. It wasn't gross misconduct, right? Which meant that I couldn't go to apply for another job and explain why I left my last one. I was stuck. And at first I looked into social media marketing. I even drove 4 hours to meet a prospect in person, just to sit across from someone who looked me in the eye, dead in the eye with his chest, and told me, you should work for free. And I remember driving home thinking, this. I'm not working for free. Whether that was the right mindset at the time or not, that's irrelevant. But that moment was very pivotal because something shifted in that moment. Just a very quiet shift. And I thought to myself, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not begging for work. I'm not working for free. And I'm not explaining myself to anyone, okay? And I knew that I was good at writing. I've been studying copywriting. I'd done some courses. I understood the psychology of it. I genuinely found it interesting. So what did I do? I pivoted to email marketing. That was the decision, the best decision that I could have made. But here's what I'll keep it a buck, right? The reason why I didn't just go and get another job was I was just too embarrassed, right? The gross misconduct on my record, the shame of explaining what happened and going back to corporate, it just felt like, just gave me the ick. It just felt impossible. So I had no plan B. I had no safety net. I had no other option. This had to work. And that's not a motivational line. This is real life, right? It was the reality that I was living in. I wasn't confident. I wasn't inspired. I was desperate. And desperate people move different. We move fast, okay? We move very fast. So here is what the first few weeks actually looked like. I was sending 100 outreach messages a day. Not 10, not 20, 100, okay? Cold emails, Instagram DMs, cold calling, in-person meets, everything and any channel that could get me in front of a potential client. I was using it. I was there. And I got responses of all kinds. Some people ignored me. Some people told me to off. Some people said no. Some people were just downright disrespectful. And here's the thing. I just didn't give a right? When you have nothing, you're not thinking about the current situation, you're just going for it. Also, I have thick skin, okay? And more importantly, I understood the maths, right? Every no was getting me closer to a yes. Every rejection was filtering out the wrong people. I wasn't failing. I was just working through the numbers at the end of the day. That's the way that I thought about it because I had no choice. I needed to get to yes. And the only way to get to yes was just to anticipate more no's. So I kept going day after day, 100 messages, responses, rejections, silence, more messages. The days were very, very, very dark. They were dark and they were long. I'm not going to pretend that they weren't. There was no excitement. There was no momentum, just grinding in pure silence. I was in trench mode, okay? While everyone around me was just living their normal lives. But I just kept going because what was the alternative? I didn't have an alternative. Then one cold email just landed. That email just hit. differently, different gravy, okay? I found an e-commerce brand. I looked at their email marketing, or their lack of email marketing. It was a supplement brand at the time, and I could see exactly what they were doing wrong. So what did I do? Pulled out the old lappy and I sent them a cold email, and I kept it super simple. I told them, hey, look, I've noticed that there are a few things that you're doing, they could be doing better, and I could help. That was it. No fancy framework, no perfectly crafted pitch, just a direct, specific observation about their business, and they responded. Let me show you what this actually looks like. So here's the structure that works. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to show them you've actually looked at their business, right? Not, oh, I love your brand. Something specific, something they can verify instantly. The second thing is to point out a specific gap. Not, oh, your email marketing could be better, but your abandoned cart sequences isn't firing. That's an 8 to 12% of revenue that you guys are leaking every single month. The third thing is offer something of value. Show them what's possible. Make it easy to say yes in a conversation. The fourth thing is a low friction CTA. So don't ask for a call immediately, right? Ask a question like, what are you currently doing to recover abandoned carts? And here is what you should not be doing, okay? Hi, I'm an email marketing specialist with 2 years of experience, and I'd love to help your brand. I'd love to help your brand grow. Can we jump on a quick call? No one's going to respond to that because it's about you, not them. The follow-up, I kept going until they told me to off. Most of my best clients came from 5, 6, even 12 email follow-ups, right? Not the first message. So we got on a call, me and this supplement brand that I was telling you about. And I want to be honest with you, the call, it wasn't smooth. I didn't have a polished sales script. I didn't have a deck. I didn't even have a single case study or testimonial. I was just raw dogging it. I was just going off spite and vibes. I just had conviction, and I had a very clear understanding of their problem and how to fix it. And then came that moment. Price, okay? I just blurted out $3,500 a month, just like that. No hesitation, no well, it depends, just $3,500 a month. And they said, okay, bet, let's do it. And I remember the silence after that, just processing what had just happened. And then I called my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife. Shout out my wife. I was absolutely over the moon. That feeling, it still sits with me till this moment. Like getting someone that doesn't know me, a stranger online, to pay me 3.5K a month. I couldn't stop talking. I couldn't sleep that night. I was literally laying there at 5 a.m, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything that I needed to do. Not just because of the money, but because of what that meant to me. 7 weeks from fired, humiliated, embarrassed, broke, and ashamed to actually having $3,500 hitting my bank account. It proved something to me that no one else could prove. Not my girlfriend, not a mentor, not a flipping guru or a YouTube video, right? It proved it to me that I could actually do this. So, quick note, if you are a high achieving person and wanting to land your first AI email marketing client, I teach this exact process step by step. Just click the first link in the description to learn more. Let's keep going. Now, after the first client, here's where most people start to celebrate, right? They take the foot off the gas, they're chilling, they're feeling themselves, right? They're walking a little bit different, the chest is inflated. I didn't do that because the moment they said yes, a new fear unlocked, right? I need to actually deliver. I need to get them results, right? So I set up their email flows. I built them, their campaigns, their email pop-ups. I was sending a few emails per week. I was very consistent. I focused on getting them results. I over communicated and I over delivered. Not because I'm a perfectionist, well, I kind of am, but not the point in this moment, but because I understood something fundamental. Their results were my proof, right? Their results were my next client. Their results were my way out, okay? So I treated that first client like my entire business depended on it. I wouldn't even call it a business at that point. It was given freelance because it did at the end of the day. My whole entire business, it depended on that. And here's what happened next, okay? A few weeks after landing that first client, landed the second client. And the conversation was different because now I wasn't just someone who said they could do email marketing. I was someone who was already doing it for a brand. I could confidently say, hey, I'm working with so-and-so brand on their email marketing. It hits completely differently than I do email marketing, you know? And then client free kick. I'm not gonna lie. It was easier because each client became proof. Each result became ammunition for the next outreach message. Each testimonial made the next sales call shorter. And somewhere between client 3 and client 5, something shifted. I stopped feeling like I was begging for work. I started feeling like I was choosing who I worked with. That shift, that desperation to selectivity, that's when I knew, well, I'm not going back. And I never did. No followers, no ads, no fancy funnel, just outreach, value, consistency, and just refusing to quit when got hard. That first client changed everything. Not just the money, but the belief that I could actually do this. That I wasn't crazy for betting on myself. 6 years later, my agency has done over $5 million, and it all started with that first $3,500. If I can do it, you can do it too. If you want me to walk you through this exact process, how to find prospects, what to say, how to close, and what to deliver, then click the first link in the description to learn more.